There you go. Cool. And then you can grab the link, Molly, from the top left from that carrot.
Put it on the website now.
Awesome. Molly, you can change. Well, actually, no, never mind. I used to like to actually like it where you had everybody's video when they were joining it, and then I would just change it on your computer to the speaker view.
Right when we get started.
Yeah, essentially. Once Roger calls the meeting to order, you can do that change, and it's in the view on the top right.
Yeah.
And then that's what'll be posted to YouTube.
Elise, are you actually in town? Elise, are you actually in Alta?
Yes, I am. Why?
You're in the minority.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
No, I'm here. It's a little warm today.
John, Carolyn, and I are not. And I'm not quite sure where Sheridan is. It's been shown up on the board yet.
Oh, the power of Zoom.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Yeah, 3 years ago, no one would believe that this was possible, but it is.
It is.
I got an email from Sheridan recently, so I'm pretty sure she's intending on attending.
Yeah, I expect she is. I just was curious as to where she is geographically. Interesting caricature of Craig.
Whoa, Polly, your hair. I just noticed it when you turned. Nice cut.
Oh, yeah.
What are you, like 15 now? I like it.
Summertime. You got
Yeah.
it. Yeah. My hairdresser is hard to get into, so it's every like 6 months. And then when I remember, it takes another 3 months to get into him. So
Well, give Sheridan another minute or two to see if she's showing up.
So thank you, Molly, for dealing with the building dude. I just talked to him. He'll come in tomorrow.
John, you get a chance to stop by and see that retention system they put in and over on Nelson's property?
It's temporary.
Some
So that's all
amazing.
shotcrete, and the DOT made him do that. So they're going
Yeah,
to
they
stabilize.
buried a bunch of big anchors in the dirt. And is that what's going to have to happen behind Jim Williams' house and those other house at the View?
Probably something like that. Maybe not the shotcrete, but they bury the anchors and the soil nails, and then after they build, they'll rip all that the shotcrete's like an inch thick. They'll pull that out and re-veg it with natural seed mix. So it
Oh.
won't look like everybody's been calling and screaming about. It will not look
Yeah,
like
I
a
didn't realize that
concrete
they
skate
took
park.
that part out. But that's good to know. The house is going to obscure, eventually when they get around to actually moving, forward and pouring the foundation and all, you would think it would obscure most of that anyway.
Yeah.
I was stunned. I went over and looked at Jim's site.
Oh,
Feel so bad for the guy. He was agonizing about starting last fall and then to have the thing subside like that. What a nightmare.
it is pretty much a nightmare, and it's still flowing.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Ugh.
Okay, well, I think we'll
Or
start
four.
without Sheridan. Hopefully she'll,
She is texting me about Molly. She says something about letting her in, but that sounds odd to me based on how she
Can
was
we send her
included.
the invite?
It appears that she is an attendee. That's her.
She,
phone
oh, it's
number.
because she came in on the
Oh, is
phone
this her?
call,
Okay.
which, yeah. So you can also rename that. Thanks, Molly.
Mhm. It's not giving me the option to promote her to panelist though.
You can enable her to speak
Okay.
and just allow that for the duration. Unless that's, no, it looks like you moved her.
Yeah, she shows up as a telephone.
Hi, sorry about this.
Okay.
Can
Okay,
you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you. Are you in Alta?
No, I'm at. I wish you could see my view. I'm actually at Mount Hood. It's directly
Oh,
behind
wow. Okay. All right. Well, welcome all to the Alta Town Council meeting of July 13th, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order and note that this meeting will be an electronic meeting without an anchor location pursuant to my letter of July 5th in order for the health and safety of all participants. I should also, well, I note also that Cliff last time made a request or a suggestion that we try to hold meetings in person. Until I think that everybody feels very safe about that, I would not advocate that. But I do note that much of the business world has figured out how to do business in Zoom right now, and that it's been very effective. And an illustration of that is I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people on my screen who are not in Alta. And yet here we are all together. So that's working. And related to being safe, Carolyn, could you give us a rundown on the epidemiology of the current situation?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Please let me know if my sound is horrendous because I'm driving. So
Yeah, your sound is okay, but I want to make clear that you are not driving as a manipulator of the controls. You're driving as a passenger.
I am the passenger being chauffeured by my lovely spouse.
Yes, good.
Thanks, Roger. Yes, safety first, sir. As an ER doc, always thinking about that. So yesterday I attended Intermountain Healthcare's bi-weekly update across the system, and things that were discussed by our head infectious disease epidemiologists were that the new variants BA4, BA5 are on the rise. It is the most contagious variant to date. Having had COVID does not protect you from getting this variant of COVID. Neither does the vaccine. However, both the vaccine and having COVID protect you from getting hospitalized and ending up in the ICU. So although we are seeing a lot of COVID and a higher test positivity rate, we have very few hospitalized and ICU patients. There is a plan for both Moderna and Pfizer to have another vaccine in October. So those are the recent updates.
Okay, but October is 3 months away, so that's going to be a while.
So
It is a while, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
if you did get this new variant, like a week and a half ago, and you're still here, does that prevent you from getting it again, or is that, that's all brand new?
That's an excellent question, John. I would assume that if you had BA4 or BA5, it would protect you from getting it again. But most of us, myself included, who had COVID about a month ago, it does not protect me from getting the BA4, BA5 variant.
Wow.
So I don't know if we all know what variant we got necessarily, But yeah, I was thinking until I went to this meeting that my, 90-day Teflon coat was in place, but I now realize that it's not, although I do recognize that having been vaccinated and having had COVID, they both offer me the protection of not being hospitalized or not ending up in the intensive care unit.
Cool, thank you.
All right. Those words are not exactly settling, but they're, but at least they're accurate. Okay, next item on the agenda is citizen input. Are there any citizens who, Molly, or who have asked to say something?
Yes, and I believe Jen was going to start by reviewing some of the written comments that were submitted, and then
Okay.
you have 3 people lined up already, and then a few more people who've joined the meeting that might also want to give a comment.
Yeah, so we received 3 comments before the deadline of 3 p.m. yesterday, and then an additional comment that came in last night that have all been sent to the council. So I'm just going to summarize those. The first one was from Cliff Curry in the Alta Lodge. He says that he agrees, and these are my summaries, obviously. So, but you guys have read the full comments, which are all posted on the website outside of the one that came in late that we'll have to figure out getting on there. So sorry, just wanted to establish that. So Cliff said that he agrees with defined times and places. He also added that weddings are, including outdoor dancing and music, are essential to the summer operations of the Alta Lodge. Bigger weddings are typically going until 11 p.m. And if given the option, he says that these weddings would go later. And so he is, it seems like, advocating for at least 11 p.m. in my mind. Sarah Gibbs from Alta Community Enrichment said that she also appreciates set guidelines. She suggested that the time be a little later than 10 p.m. due to the significant effect of the summer wedding business in Alta. We also heard from Barbara Jordan, resident here in Alta. She supports a noise ordinance. She was pointing out that 8 hours of quiet time was something that she wanted to advocate for. So a 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. noise curfew. She pointed out that noise travels in the canyon and echoes. She can hear Oktoberfest at Snowbird and even Peruvian weddings from her house. She did also want to point out that many of the homes in Alta don't have air conditioning. And so opening your windows at night is something that she does. And when you've got music blaring, it's a little loud to be sleeping and being in peace and quiet. She just closed out that she lives and she feels like people visit Alta for the peace and quiet. And then the last comment that we got was from Margaret Burke, who again agreed with that the town should not be arbitrarily enforcing noise ordinances or noise restrictions. She wanted to just point out that we're becoming more and more aware of both noise and light pollution in the community, and that she feels that noise pollution is harmful to both people and the animals, and favors a 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. restriction.
Okay, well, actually, Ken submitted too, but maybe it didn't go to you.
Correct. Or I didn't realize it was being directed for this purpose.
And so did Mike. Mike Mon put in something with maybe
To the council directly?
I thought so, but maybe not. So let's see.
If those can be forwarded to me, I can make sure that I'll include them with Margaret's, and I'll update the batch of written comments that are on the website to reflect those.
And I got a message from Tom Pollard, who was very brief. He said, "I'm on vacation. I agree with Cliff." That was that.
Okay, well, if that can be given to me as well, that I can include that.
Okay. So we'll fill out the record.
Yep.
Okay, and all of these pertain to the item 7 on the agenda, which is discussion possible action on a noise ordinance. So we'll have to keep those in mind until we get to that point. So that's the end of the citizen input, I believe.
No, we still have some people at the meeting who would like to speak.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah.
Who's
So-
who?
First up, we'll have Cliff Curry, followed by Matt White, and then Todd Collins, if he's able to join us.
Okay.
And Cliff requested to have his video on, so I'm just moving him over. So he should be able to share his video now. Cliff, are you with us? Not sure where he went.
There is a little bit of a delay when you're
Yeah.
making that happen, Molly, so that's helpful to know.
You want to go to one of the other people who,
Sure. Next up is Matt White, and just give me a minute. I will. You should be able to speak now, Matt.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Hello, my name is Matt White. I am the new Director of Sales and Marketing at Snow Pine Lodge, so just speaking on the lodge's behalf. And first wanted to thank the council and the mayor. Thank you all for the great work you do for our community. I look forward to hopefully meeting you all in person, but excited to be here. The resolution would definitely negatively impact our business. The wedding business, mostly on the weekends, is a very large part of our operating plan in the summer months. Definitely, I think everyone here understands the need for a limit to that, and 11 p.m. would be our hope that we could keep the current restriction to that point. It's a 10 p.m. noise restriction would definitely, in all my years in this business, that 10 to 11 window, that slot is a big hot button for brides and grooms planning their weddings. That would definitely put us at a disadvantage when we're selling against Salt Lake City and Park City and other area destinations. So we want to be good partners. We want to make sure we are respectful partners, and our clients are as well, but definitely in favor of leaving things at 11 p.m. So, thank you all for the opportunity to speak. Appreciate it.
thank you, Matt. Did we get Cliff in yet?
It seems as if he's left the meeting.
Okay, and was
Or
there,
got lost in the shuffle, but I just emailed him, so hopefully he'll be able to get back to me and get back logged back in.
and there was someone else, wasn't there, Molly?
Todd Collins requested, but I don't see him at the meeting yet, so might just miss his opportunity.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think we'll move on and maybe come back to the to those who had made a request to make an input, but through
Cliff
technical-
is, oh, sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Cliff, he did end up getting out of the meeting. He's just having some technical difficulties, Molly. So maybe as
Okay.
soon as you see him pop back in,
Yeah, I got my eye on it.
I'm not sure how that's working, but I just
Well-
wanted to put you on notice that I told him to log back in.
Okay.
Meantime, let's move on to item 3, which is ski area update with Mike Mon, who I don't see on the list here now.
Yeah, I'll have to move him over too. Just give me 1 second. Okay, Mike Munn should be live.
Okay, Mike?
There we go. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to give a report. A few things going on. There's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of activity between what's going on with us and UDOT in town and paving behind gold miners going on too. Some work there. So the Sunnyside lift has been completely removed and it's gone. It was sold to Red Lodge and all the parts and pieces are gone except for one tower that we're trying to deal with. We have started excavation for new footings for the new lift. The bottom terminal has been poured. It's pretty much done. They're working on the top, and we are now starting to work on the actual tower locations of the new towers. Some work there. We are going to be doing some blasting in the rock for some of those towers to break it up so they can remove it up on the upper end of the terrain. They're digging the ones that they can dig at this point in time and trying to move forward there. So we will have some during the next few weeks, some temporary closures of the trails on the days that we're blasting. The trail will be closed during the blast time, but not closed for the whole day. So it's more like of a blasting delay that will occur. We don't have specific dates at this point in time as when they will occur, but we will communicate those to Alta Central when we know that's the date that we're going to have some blasting going on. We also are moving towards work up on Supreme, some terrain work. We are moving some material from the phone lot up to Supreme. So you may have seen some trucks, some big trucks moving up in that direction. So we're starting to deploy on that project. The Veasan Tower project's been going pretty active the last 2 weeks. Helicopters flying material up and back, and they've made significant progress on that project. Most of the sites are prepared to do the drill work for drilling the rods for the towers, and so they're starting to do the drilling. And then after that, it will just be, the towers will need to get here and they'll need to be flown up and installed. But that project is a little ahead of schedule. The sprung structure, we have a sprung structure that will be installed out in front of the Albion Day Lodge. We've got our building permit from the town and signed a contract today with Sprung. That probably will be installed September time as we'll see some work on that. The campground is open, first come, first serve. It switches over to reservations on the 15th, which is coming right up. And it is full, all booked out for, I think, most of the summer, based on reservations. This coming Sunday, July 17th, will be the Wildflower Festival here in Alta. We have the Cirque Run Series on August 20th, and we have the Wasatch Trail Series run that occurs on July 20th in the evening. A few things that are occurring here in the canyon. In regards to parking for next season, we'll continue with our reserved parking system. We are adding Fridays to the mix, so reservations will be required on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and holiday periods. No change to the rates at this point in time. We are working with the town staff on the north side, shifting management of north side seasonal parking to under town management for this coming season that's there. So that's kind of the report of what we have going on, and unless you have some questions.
A lot going on. Any questions of Mike? Okay. Busy summer.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Yeah. Cliff, let me come back to you. You weren't able to get in on the public.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Cliff Curry with the Alta Lodge. Maybe this would be a good time for me to point out that no, Zoom is not as good as in-person meetings.
Yeah, I spoke to that earlier.
I'm sorry I was disconnected. Didn't hear you. I'm here to tell you today that the proposed ordinance 2022-05, as currently drafted with the 10 p.m. cutoff, could very likely destroy the summer business of Alta Lodge and put 30 or more Alta Lodge staff out of work. 10 p.m. is not a reasonable end time for outdoor wedding music at Alta Lodge. 10 p.m. end time for us, according to our wedding schedules, means a 4 p.m. ceremony and a 5:30 p.m. dinner. Our wedding couples are unlikely to accept that time frame and probably would book their event somewhere else, not in Alta. And if Alta Lodge lost even half of its usual summer wedding business level, our summer business would not be financially viable, in my judgment. And in that event, Alta Lodge would probably be forced to end all summer operations, including Sunday brunch, leaving 30 plus Alta Lodge staff unemployed. I do agree with and support Marshall Maury's briefing memo with respect to the need for definition of times and places in the ordinance, and also about the constitutional issue. We are always available to talk with town staff in advance, the mayor and members of the council in advance, about how ideas for new rules and regulations may affect the viability of our business. I'm also certainly available to answer any questions today. Thank you.
Okay, and as I said earlier, Cliff, maybe before you were on board, that we'll have considerable discussion of this on the 7th item on the agenda. Okay, did Todd ever
Looks like he
materialize?
has joined the meeting and I see a hand raised. So just give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, Todd, you should be able to join us now.
you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, what I've been doing in the absence of a rule in the town of Alta has been telling people, our wedding people, that 11 o'clock is when we would like to stop loud music, and that has been people found that to be pretty reasonable. And I don't normally have music outside. It's usually inside, but lately there's been people that have decided to do things outside. And what I've told the neighbors is that I'm going to, up until 11, point the speakers of a DJ or a band toward the east, so that it's not going directly toward the town. But I think also that 11 o'clock is more reasonable than 10, and it's more viable with what people are expecting. But and yeah, I concur with what Cliff is saying, that it's more reasonable to be 11.
Okay. And I hope you'll stick around for the discussion that's downstream a little bit too.
Mayor, can I
Yes.
interrupt for 1 minute?
Yes.
I don't know if, I think Mike Mon is probably still with us. Molly, are you able to prompt Sheridan at the top right of her icon to enable her to speak? I think there's a function *6 that allow her to, but she was trying to ask Mike Mon a question a minute ago and was unable to do so.
I'm seeing it says she has permission to talk and she is not muted.
Okay. Oh, good. And then we have Mike back
So
there.
now it looks like she just was muted and unmuted. Sheridan, can you be with us? I don't know if it's another technical difficulty, but she's.
No, it's just, it's user just trying to figure out, I think, how to, it says she's unmuted, but we can't, no, we cannot hear you, Sheridan. Do you want to type in your question to me via text? Sorry, folks.
Although try again, Sheridan, because your mic now has the red mark taken off of it.
Yeah. Mike, the question from Sheridan is, do VEASAN towers make noise, and if so, how much?
Oh.
Beeson towers will make noise. They drop a 13-pound explosive, but it's the same noise that you hear from the Beeson towers above the town of Alta. So it's the same avalanche control technology that UDOT's using for the road. We're just using it up for Baldy.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Oh,
If you
there
can
you are,
hear me.
Sheridan. We can.
Yes. Okay, that satisfy your question, Sheridan?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, good. All right, well, let's move on then to the consent agenda. And the treasurer's report and staff report. One thing I want to say on behalf of the treasurer, who may want to say this himself, he sent out a survey. Greg sent out a survey to staff and to the town council. And not everybody has responded, but he would request that they do so, and I would request that they do so too. The thing is, the survey is anonymous, so he doesn't know who the people are who haven't responded. So if you haven't responded, you presumably know who you are, and I think this is something that Craig is trying to get a handle on. You want to say anything else about that, Craig?
Just if somebody needs me to send it back out, just reach out to me and I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any questions regarding the department reports? Okay, and we need to have an approval for the minutes. Would someone like to move that the minutes be accepted?
So
Approved?
moved.
Okay, that was Sheridan.
Second.
John, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. I don't think there are any other items that need to be approved in that regard, are there? Jen? Oh, John has his finger up.
Could I just make a comment? I wanted to thank Jen and her office for the improvements to the financial reporting. I think that they're great. Having some historical information, the balance sheet information. I really applaud the changes that you've made since we last met, Jen, and just want to tell you how much I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, there is one thing in the staff reports that may be of interest, which is, well, there are many things that may be of interest, but if I don't know who the UFA representative is with us, but today, I presume that there is such a person. I believe that they're normally represented. And I'd like them to say something about our wildfire exposure if they're available. Captain Adam Webb, who's muted.
I'm just moving him over now, so he should be able to join us the video too, if you'd like.
How about now?
You're on.
So the great thing about being in the mountains is with where we are and how we're located, the vegetation's still all green, our relative humidity staying fine. So I wouldn't be too fearful of any wildfires to do anything for us. There'll be some lightning here and there. If anything were to happen there, it'd be isolated, probably to a tree or tree grove. But yeah, wildfires don't look too terrible up in our neck of woods.
Wow. Some good news.
So there's the good news.
Yeah.
The snow did just enough for us this year.
Great. All right, thank you. That's nice to hear. All right, anything else from concerning the departmental reports? In that case, we'll go to the mayor's report. Excuse me. There was a meeting down at the base of the canyon on Wednesday, the 27th. This minute, I'm gonna. As I say, there was a meeting at the base of the canyon or the mouth of the canyon organized by Mayors Wilson and Zoltansky and some people from the council from the Salt Lake County and to talk about alternatives to the gondola. About 100 spectators, all of whom were most interested in some alternative to the gondola. There was a interesting article in the Salt Lake Trib in the last few days on the land ownership at the base of the gondola. So, and related to that, Mayor Zoltansky of Sandy organized a meeting with the governor that I was attending, and included the mayors of Mill Creek and Brighton as well. The Brighton mayor, Dan Knoop, was a strong advocate of a train. His observation is that while traffic has been relieved in Little Cottonwood Canyon, it's become much worse in Big Cottonwood Canyon, and that's become a real problem to our neighbors. There was a press release recently and a series of videos trying to slow traffic in town. And many mayors, including myself, recorded a little statement saying, slow down in town. I haven't seen that composite yet released. Mike Morey, do you have any updates on that?
No, I have not seen the release of the commercial yet either.
Okay. I guess it would be a commercial, wouldn't it? In some sense. I don't even know where it's to be played. Do you?
Local broadcast media.
Ah, I see. Okay. On the subject of the Patsy Marley estate, a few of us met with the representatives of the estate recently, last week, and to look at the potential for locating a hotel down not very far up from the cat shop in lieu of the 10 homes. And that many of us feel that would be more in the community's interest to have such a hotel other than the 10 homes. And I would say that discussion is productive. John Byrne was part of that. John Goldner was part of that. I think things are kind of moving there in a direction that is more in keeping with the needs of the community. We have a proposal to the estate to complete a water line to the Grizzly Gulch tank, which has been out there for now 3 months. And we haven't gotten a good response from that. We haven't gotten any response, actually, which we'd like to get that water line completed next summer. And my last item is that our next meeting is August 10th at 4 p.m. and unless there's a work session that precedes it. And I am going to be at sea, and Elise as Mayor Pro Tem has kindly accepted the responsibility of conducting that meeting. Okay, any questions concerning the mayor's report? Good. So let's now go to the discussion and possible action to adopt an ordinance, a noise ordinance. And I would like to start that discussion by putting up an item on my screen. And here is what I would like to share. I start off thinking that there's probably some principles that apply here. And the first one is that ideally, each of us should act in a way that does not unduly interfere with the lives or comfort of others. And society constructs rules that try to move us toward that principle. John Golder pointed out if everybody did what was ideal, there wouldn't need any rules, but it turns out that we do need rules. Well, the second point is that any public policy must balance the interests of a variety of parties. No party is likely to get everything they want. That's just the nature of things. We all have different priorities. The third point is that the physics of sound transmission and acoustics are such that constructing a quantitative, defensible, and enforceable rules for noise ordinance is really impractical. I'm somewhat familiar with acoustic facilities that are used for testing hardware, and it's really hard to get those things right, and that it's in a highly controlled environment. So in our community, there's nothing that resembles a controlled environment along those lines. And the fourth item is that the main attraction of Alta is its natural environment. That's why people come here. And one element of that environment is that it's quite quiet compared to urban settings. So one of the reasons people come here has to do with quietness. Next one is that people are not only creatures that are not the only creatures that are disturbed by noise. So are wildlife. As you see that anytime you make a noise, the wildlife runs away. And I noticed some ideas that, well, it's not disturbing very many people, so it's okay to have a high noise environment. And I have trouble with that because it implies that it's okay to disturb one person, but it's not okay to disturb, say, 100. So that means that somewhere between 1 and 100, there's a boundary that says it's okay to disturb people that are fewer than that, and not okay to disturb people that are more than that. So I don't know where that boundary is, but it's pretty hard to figure out where such a boundary should be drawn. The next one is that assuming some buildings are unoccupied in summer, I don't think is a very good, leads to very good policies, because we really don't know which buildings are occupied, residents are occupied, and I think we should consider them all potentially occupied. So saying, well, there aren't many people around, so it's okay to make a lot of disturbance, rubs me the wrong way. And at least one organization in Alta, ACE, has been able to conduct outdoor activities that do not create a problem for the neighbors. And I noted Todd's remarks earlier that we'll point the speakers to the east so that the sound is projected in a direction where there are fewer people. And I think that's the kind of response I was hoping that we would get on this. We already have several ordinances that regulate noise. 3-3-6 prohibits noise beyond the property line of a home. 4-4-1 defines offensive business practice to include excessive noise. 4-4-6 provides for the town council to revoke a business permit if they generate excessive noise. 5-2-8 defines nuisance animals are those that bark too much, particularly dogs. 5-3-B-2 requires a permit for outside loudspeakers. 7-6-2 closes a town park at 10 o'clock, which presumably has some noise rationale to it. And 10-13-13 is not really noise, but it's in the same kind of category because it requires lighting to be confined to property boundaries. So with that introduction, I'd like to open up the discussion here to others' thoughts on this potential noise ordinance. Who would like to speak first?
Well, Mayor, I welcome your comments, as I do everyone's within the community, and appreciate that this is an intense issue for many folks. I think the oral environment, AURAL, environment of Alta is a key part of Alta's identity. And I might suggest that we kind of hear this out today, but table the idea of acting on any changes to our ordinance until we are able to have perhaps a work session in the next few weeks to sit down with community members, sales directors of businesses to talk about potential solutions, which I think I've seen in writing at least John Burns' great ideas about improvements with sound systems, as well as many other suggestions that have been made.
Okay. So one of the things you're doing, what you're advocating, Sheridan, is that we conduct a work session on this topic in the not too distant future.
Yes, a session that would include, privileging residents and perhaps salespeople from the respective lodges to talk about potential solutions and to talk about their concerns and their suggestions.
Okay. Any other want to speak up? John, you were referred to there. You want to say something?
Well, I'd say the thing that struck me most so far is the gentleman from Snowpine really nailed it. I'm sorry, I haven't mentioned yet. But I think it's about taking responsibility for the event. And it really warms my heart to hear him say that that's at the top of the list at the Snowpine to work to minimize the impact on your neighbors and to take responsibility for what's happening. And it's good to hear. And I think that's, in this case, it seems like most of the negative impact, quite frankly, centers around the setup of the event, and that some events are set up such that there is no impact on the neighborhood, on the Powder Ridge neighborhood, and other events, the setup, is greatly impacting them. And I did hear Todd say that he was, committed to, monitoring the setup and making sure that the speakers are facing east, or the parking lot and gold miners with the Buckhorn, which are sufficiently far away that they won't be as heavily impacted as that little corner of Alta between the Peruvian and Powder Ridge. And so I think those are the right kind of steps that the businesses need to take. I really feel for Cliff's comments, and to be I think it's a hugely positive thing that we're having so much business activity in Alta this summer. We're making it work for more and more employees on a year-round basis. The activity of the various lodges being open, I think everyone's open, or nearly everyone's open. It really fosters a greater sense of community. and I'm really happy to see it. And I wish it was all good news, and we were all able to just that there weren't attendant issues. But I think in the big picture, the important thing is that it's finally happening, that we're finally reaching critical mass in the summer. And in the long run, I think that's very healthy for the community and healthy for our constituents.
Okay, any residents of Powder Ridge that's on this like to say anything?
Yes, thank you. There is a horrific rainstorm right now, so I think I'm afraid that the noise is terrible, so I apologize for that. I support Sheridan's suggestion of a work in progress, and I think that we do need to get more input from residents as well as businesses. It's somewhere in one of our chains, there was a suggestion that, decibel noise as felt by somebody may actually be very different than what's produced by a lodge. So it's possible that the Alta Lodge may not project noise as much to the residents that live at the base of Alta as the noise that's projected from, say, the Peruvian to the residents of Powder Ridge. And so, although I certainly welcome the suggestion that looking at decibel noise might be too technical, too much work, it's certainly possible that it may actually offer some level playing field. So I think that all opinions need to be heard, and that we do have a big work in progress. I will also respectfully disagree with Citizen Curry in that if I'm going to have my wedding at Alta, I'm going to have my wedding at Alta. It's going to be really beautiful. And I don't care if the music has to stop at 10. I don't care if I get married at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. To think that somebody doesn't want to enjoy their peaceful wedding in Alta simply because the music shuts down at 10, I highly disagree. And particularly since other neighboring resorts all have a noise ordinance at 10, the bars have a noise ordinance at 10. So I think those opinions need to be explored more. So thanks for letting me speak.
Sure.
My biggest concerns is, I did read the current noise ordinance. Well, I should say the drafted ordinance, and we do offer some ski area exemptions for avalanche mitigations. But there are other things. I think Mike Mon in the email he sent to the town council, we've got snowmaking guns, we've got cats. I mean, the issue with this noise ordinance is that it's, summer and winters are very different around here. And so I don't know if we need to do something different, a noise ordinance for different summer and winter, but, or we just need to have some exemptions in there. But there are other things that make noise that this could impact. So we do just need to be very thoughtful in how we draft this and just think of everything besides summer. Because we, want our ski area to operate. We want to be able to have snow. So we don't want to be shutting down snow guns. And then just other things I think we need to make sure we put in there, search and rescue operations. I know we have some things that are deemed exempt maybe by the town, but sometimes Salt Lake County is doing a search and rescue operation with a helicopter, and they base out of the Wildcat parking lot because they are trying to rescue somebody. And I don't want our noise ordinance to impact an operation like that. My other concern, and this is more of a question for Polly, is that I know we have something about helicopters in the noise ordinance or this drafted ordinance. I'm sure everybody's thinking about the helicopter that's landing in the Wildcat parking lot right now for the Beeson Towers, which the town council did approve that project. And Grom did tell us that there were going to be some helicopters. So that shouldn't come as a surprise, but that is federal land. And I don't really know how our noise ordinance would work on a helicopter landing on federal property, as well as the airspace above the town of Alta is not controlled by the town of Alta. So that was just a question for our, lawyer as we're drafting this. We just want to make sure we're not going to put ourselves into a situation where we could get a lawsuit or anything like that for something that we are, just oversighting. Those are just my points for our work session. And I agree, this is a work in progress. I think this needs to have a lot of thought go into it.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else want to speak up on this?
I guess I'd also, sorry, I should have said that I really appreciate Mike Morey bringing this to our attention. And I think that we all really want to support Mike and his team. And so I do welcome clarity on this issue. So Mike, thanks a lot for bringing this forward.
Yeah, I would echo that. And, honestly, I appreciate Mike bringing it forward and asking for some direction from the council to clear up what I think is being perceived as a certain amount of ambiguity in the existing statute. I think we're all in agreement that, this was a starting point for the discussion, and Mike and Cameron produced this draft ordinance to get the ball rolling, and I think they've done so. We've quite a bit of engagement. I agree that with Sheridan and Annalise that we should, be steering toward a work session and looking to refine and improve this document and try to make it work for everybody over the next couple of months. I don't think it makes sense to try to adopt it at a meeting you're not going to be at, Roger. So I would say the August meeting doesn't make sense for this as an agenda item. But I also think, though, that the improved management of the actual events can start today, tomorrow. The lodges could they really need to adopt a mindset of they're going to do everything they can to minimize the impact on their neighbors. And I think if we could just have that kind of mindset going on a consistent basis, we'd see a lot of progress on this issue. So I'd encourage the lodges to do what they can to minimize the impact going forward. And that doesn't need to wait for the fall. That could start now.
Can I summarize your remarks as everybody should try to be a good neighbor?
Yeah. Well, sometimes we lose sight of that in the heat of the season.
Yeah. But that's okay. Well, one thing is pretty unanimous here that we should have a work session on this topic, and the September would be the time from my standpoint to have that. So let's count on a work session prior to the town council meeting in September. Anybody else want to weigh in on this topic?
Looks like Mike Morey is interested in adding something.
Good.
Thanks. I just wanted to reiterate where, the, excuse me, the police operations coming from. We've had a few phone calls recently, asking about noise in ordinances, enforcement, what can we do, when do we have to quit? And, we've had this historic practice of sort of sticking our finger in the air and saying, well, 11 o'clock seems okay with us. And, where we end up with is, law enforcement creating public policy, and that is not a good practice for us to be in. Certainly the person that's on the other side of that decision could contend that, hey, what about my opinion? What about how I feel about this? And so we want to get out of those kind of, subjective rulings and, really understand what the regulation is so that we can give clear guidance and, at the very end of the spectrum, do enforcement if it becomes necessary. So in reviewing this, there's certainly some constitutional issues that came to mind with our existing code. I think there's some serious First Amendment issues. pertaining to free speech and submitting content, as well as, people's right to gather. So the way we defend ourselves is to have defensible ordinances. And our opinion in the police department is the existing ordinance is not very defensible. It's highly subjective, and we're looking for some guidance. We're not advocating for one particular time over the other. I'm sure the council can help us to get there. Thanks.
Cameron, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. And I noticed a couple of attendees had hands up as well, but the concern that Polly and I have, and that Mike has as well, is that the current code is really not workable. And so I can certainly understand the need to take some time and get more input on this. We could actually pass the existing ordinance with the time of 11 o'clock, which seems like that would codify the past practice. And that would give the marshal's office something that they could enforce while we get the input from the community and then figure out times and dates and seasons. The existing code is really sort of non-existent legally. And so it would be nice to have something there that they could use to enforce, and you could put in the existing times. That was my only suggestion.
And I might add that, the bulk of our conversation seems to be, on lodge activities, but for us, there's issues that come up this time of year in the campground with, amplified music, summer rentals of condominiums and all that. So being able to respond and, do what we can to, keep things peaceful. We certainly want to have the tools to do that.
Okay, so what you're advocating, Mike, and Cameron suggesting, so we pass this ordinance now and tune it later. Is that?
That's one option. We're not completely without options. We could certainly enforce some state statutes regarding disorderly conduct. That gets a little heavy-handed if we have to get to that point. Would much rather have something locally, that maybe makes a first offense an infraction or something, as opposed to going to a Class B misdemeanor with potential jail booking.
Okay, Carolyn, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I do. I think if we chose to pass what Cameron is suggesting today, then I would advocate for a 10 p.m. time, because I think that makes more sense for the campgrounds. I think that makes more sense for people who have rented places for community wellness. I think 10 p.m. makes more sense. I do think that an exception could readily be given to every party that has previously been booked for an 11 p.m. time frame, to actually be given an exception for that. But 10 p.m. makes much more sense.
Okay. I should note that one of the provisions, conditions, items in the current draft is it doesn't come into effect until 60 days after passage. So it would basically be no change in the next 2 months or the 2 months after passage. So.
And Mayor, that was a placeholder. I just guessed because the staff suggested that there might be events that this would affect. And so we wanted a phase-in period. So that phase-in is open to whatever the council wants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a nice idea, but honestly, I think it's gonna be very problematic to pass this document. There's just a lot of things that need to be taken out and talked about and put on the table. And I thought Mike Mullins' letter, had at least 4 or 5 points that I couldn't have agreed more with that, would be contra to the draft ordinance. So I don't know. We've lived with the other ordinance for a while. There's a lot of things about the other ordinance the actual existing ordinance that I like. And I'm not sure all of the problems are really solved by the new draft. And there's clearly some things that need to be addressed. So I would sort of shy away from passing something just to pass it. And there's plenty of grounds in the existing ordinance for Mike to be calling people out on excessive noise. So I would lean against passing something now just to pass it.
I agree. I'm not comfortable passing something and without looking at this more.
Okay, you want to,
I agree as well. And is there, I have a quick question too. Is there not a noise ordinance at the campground? That startles me, like a cutoff time of 10 p.m.
They might have their own Forest Service regulations. That would be done by the U.S. Forest Service, I guess, or whatever the rules of the campground are.
do we have any jurisdiction there?
Well, it's
Yes, Mike?
We do unless it's superseded by a prevailing sovereign like the federal government. So our ordinances are intact unless they're contradicted by county, state, or federal regulations.
Let's see. Okay, so we do have jurisdiction. And whatever ordinances we have for the town apply in the campground as well. Is it?
Mike, do you know? I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't mean to.
No,
speak
go,
over.
Sheridan, go.
I've got delay on my video. So, Mike, Maury, our honored and beloved Marshall, do you know if there's a 10 p.m. cutoff? I just don't know.
I think the the campground has a 10 p.m. quiet time, but the police don't enforce rules. We enforce laws, and it's I used to deal with this down at Snowbird all the time, where lodge had 10 o'clock quiet time, and somebody would get loud and they'd call the sheriff's office, and they'd come in and say, well, this is really a civil issue between the parties. And that's going to go one of two ways. The person's going to be asked to leave and trespassed, or they're going to comply. And so we're looking again for some lower level enforcement solution for these kind of situations.
Thank you.
Carolyn, your video is off and you were muted. Do you want to say anything more on this topic?
Thanks for giving me the floor. No, I very much support the idea of a work session, but I think I've made my opinion of 10 p.m. quite clear.
Yeah, okay. Well, here's how I'd like to proceed. Let's have a work session at the September meeting on this topic. In the meantime, I would like to see if we can't use our personalities to persuade nicely anybody who is frankly causing discomfort to someone else to modify their behavior in a way that works. So, and that's kind of that's where I would like to leave it. If there are any other suggestions, I'm open to them, but
I'm concerned that you said personality and we in the same sentence.
I was including you.
Well, that's my concern.
You can pick him up, Mike.
That sounds wise to me, Roger. It seems like a good place to leave it.
Okay. I'll tell you what, then let's, if there's no objection, let's move on to the Alta Chamber Visitor Bureau and Chris.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody. Is my screen? It looks like I'm not sharing the right screen. Let me bring this into the frame. Can you see the?
Yeah, firehouse garage heater ventilation mod.
No, that's not correct. In fact,
I must be not reading.
Well, that is what you were reading, but now are you reading what appears to be a deck of slides related to ACBB?
Yes. Yep.
Good. Perfect. All right. Yes, thank you. I know in my staff report, consent agenda staff report, I described that Brandon Ott of Alta-Sciria, who is our new ACBB board president, will be joining us today, but he and I miscommunicated, and he's fortunate enough to be on vacation this week. So Rosie O'Grady, now past president of the chamber board, representing the Alta Lodge, will be here as well. So Rosie is gonna, I'll do a little bit more of an introduction, and then Rosie will talk about what we got up to last year, some of our marketing and programming highlights from 2021, 2022 fiscal year. Then I'll talk about kind of our year-end financial picture at the chamber from last fiscal year, and then next year's programming and budget outlook. So the chamber's mission, we updated the mission statement for Alta Chamber a couple years ago now. ACBB promotes Alta and Little Cottonwood Canyon as a world-class year-round mountain resort destination and seeks to enhance the Alta experience for locals and destination visitors. ACBB functions as a partnership between the public entity of the town and the Alta business community. Pursuant to that mission statement update, we have this streamlined sort of program area structure. We do a little bit of destination marketing still. It's tuned to support our updated mission statement. Community guided visitor information is a program area we pursue that provides information to visitors about what's going on in Alta and information about member businesses. Member services is mostly networking and education events for members. And then public art and placemaking is sort of the forum where this relationship with ACE to carry out programs that support the chamber mission is most realized. So we'll talk about coming up here some of the projects that took place within these program areas last year. Our board officers for the upcoming year, like I said, Brandon Ott, marketing director at Alta-Sciria, is the president. Zach Holman, general manager at the Gold Miners, is our vice president. I am serving as the treasurer, and Connie Marshall is our board secretary. We also have Sarah Gibbs on the board of the chamber these days. And I think with that, is Rosie O'Grady on the call?
Yes.
There's Rosie. Yes. So I'm going to sort of turn it over to Rosie and let her talk a bit about last fiscal year's activities.
Great. Thanks, Chris. And as Chris mentioned, I was just going to take a few minutes of your time to update you on our key areas of programming. The first being our membership activity. And our goal in this category is to provide member events with a focus on community building and networking. So we have had early winter and postseason member events the past few years hosted by the Snow Pine, and those events have been especially well attended by our members. The feedback that we get from membership is they appreciate the opportunity to connect and build with the community and fellow local businesses, as well as have that forum to learn, hear what's new, and of course have a dialogue about that information. We also hosted a midwinter pre-public ski around hosted by Alta-Sciria, followed by a hosted coffee at Gold Miner's Daughter for more of a social event. At this point, we have 21 active member businesses and local nonprofits, and we remain committed to attracting new members. Our marketing initiatives, this past year, our efforts were in conjunction with a Utah Office of Tourism grant. The grant grant was a co-op funded opportunity with a 50% campaign match, and we were awarded $7,500 from the Utah Office of Tourism. So a total of $15,000 for our Time Well Spent campaign. And as the campaign goals, as our focus, the focus of consumers has changed more so from material goods to those of memory making and experiences, we decided that our Time Well Spent campaign was a great goal to enhance the visitor experience with a push to increase visitation during the shoulder season months and throughout the summer. And that provides business opportunities to members of the chamber and the community of Alta. So instead of a traditional destination marketing program, as we've kind of run in the past, the shift this time is more towards an experiential type of program. With that, we created a dedicated landing page, so altacommunity.org, which is under the umbrella of ACE and Time Well Spent. We had a curated events calendar and continue to do so. And we also spent those campaign dollars on some paid advertising with Open Snow and Ski Utah. And we had 57,000 users reached through those campaigns, 220,000 plus impressions, and 1,845 direct clicks, plus 3,400 plus page views. So we did a great buy with Open Snow, where Evan Thayer generated some custom content for us. There was a campaign that went out through Ski Utah, and then there was an email distribution that had links to Evan Thayer's Open Snow campaign that went out to all the ACE and ACVB email subscribers. So we felt that this was a really great campaign, and we plan to continue utilizing the concept of Time Well Spent, along with the dedicated landing and events page as a resource for the community and visitors moving forward. So we thought that was a really positive marketing effort this past year. These are some examples of that Time Well Spent campaign over social media, the website, and the email blast. And another component of this that fits in with the chamber values and mission is that we had Vicki Merriman. She works at the Rustler Lodge, but she's a local artist and provided this original artwork for our campaign. And our visitor initiatives, one thing to highlight would be our social media campaigns. So again, with our updated strategic plan and ACVB offering funding to Alta Community Enrichment, we came up with this Discover Alta and Humans of Alta campaign. That campaign reached almost 39,000 people and generated over 3,500 likes. It seems that our community and visitors really enjoy learning more about those folks in Alta. We've partnered with local businesses to also enhance the campaign to kind of pull more people out of the woodwork. And this partnership with ACE has allowed for better traction with social media, amongst other, a bunch of our marketing initiatives. So, but this Humans of Alta campaign is definitely one of the best performing social campaigns that we have going in our partnership with ACE. Also, as a reminder, when we transitioned our focus a couple years ago, we dismantled the discoveralta.com website, and Discover Alta has now become part of altacommunity.org. So we have a listing on the website, and it does a lot, I think, to help our visitors and the community understand Alta. So there's a lot of content on there that supports our mission and tells the story of Alta. And that we believe resonates not only with our locals, but our destination visitors as well. The partnership also continues to offer support to ACE and the Artist in Residence program. There are over 1,000 applicants for this program each year. And this meets both ACE and ACB initiatives benefiting our community. Sophia was here last August, and this coming up this year, we have Ty as the recipient of the award. So we're really excited to see what he brings. Community events. We had a couple a lot of popular community events in conjunction with ACE. We had the Save the Dark campaign on April 14th, the Snow Pine Lodge, at the Snow Pine Lodge. That was also part of our Time Well Spent campaign. So a midweek event during the spring winter season. We also had the art show in the spring season. This summer, we'll have the drive-in movie nights and also live music events at the Snow Pine and Peruvian Lodge. So those are all things that we partner with ACE on to support the community. And lastly, we've got creative placemaking. In support of those efforts, we teamed up with ACE for the creation of the Alta community flag. I think you have hopefully all seen them popping up more and more around the town of Alta, but it has been, we feel, a really successful community building project. And we are excited to continue to use this image for ACE and ACVB initiatives in the future. There was also a creative placemaking project at the Gold Miner's Daughter. It's on the east wall of the cafeteria if you haven't seen it, but of course our local artist, Andrew Pollard, did a great job creating that mural in the GMD. So that's kind of wrap up of our programs from this year, and I'll turn it over to Chris to look forward.
Thanks, Rosie. Can you all hear me again? I'm not muted, am I? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So moving into 2022, 2023, we're going to continue with that Time Well Spent campaign. We've spent half of the money that we're eligible to receive from the state. So we'll move forward with some more kind of experienced focused destination marketing like efforts on the Time Well Spent campaign. A major effort we have ongoing at the Chamber right now is that the Chamber applied for about a $70,000 grant from the Utah Office of Tourism Co-op program, which is the same program that awarded us the funds to do Time Well Spent. And what we propose to do with that funding is support the significant budget shortfall in the Alta Resort Shuttle program that we're facing this upcoming season. So it was a sort of a non-traditional application to that program, but we were encouraged to consider that a potential source of funding by a couple influential folks. Yeah, if we're awarded that, we propose to kind of wrap the program in a little bit of marketing. So we would build some kind of content into the Time Well Spent campaign, encouraging people to use the shuttle as part of a trip to Alta without a car and a way to get around town. So a responsible recreation campaign rather is something we've been talking about for a few years. Depending on what happens with the grant to support the shuttle program, we might find a way to get something off the ground towards next summer about visiting Alta, particularly in the summer season, in a low impact way. Member listings, visitor information. We'll continue to keep developing photo, video, and social media content, blog posts. We continue to work with ACE to keep member listing pages on that Discover Alta page updated. Public art and events. I know Sarah has a range of projects she wants to pursue this summer, from new murals. We're working on an arrangement with UTA to use the Alta flag to dress up the UTA bus shelters in town. planter boxes in a few public places around town, and then possible new installations of the Alta flag. And then, of course, we'll continue to support ACE events focused on the arts up in town. We'll do our usual slate of in-person member events. We've always sort of had this goal of providing educational and business development opportunities for members. We'll keep looking for opportunities to do that. So our financial picture. Last year, we took in $49,372 in revenue, $16,622 in member dues. We still do have dues outstanding from, I believe it's 5 members, and that's for kind of our dues are good for a calendar year. So we do have some past due member invoices out there that we are tracking folks down to collect. We took in half of that $7,000 award from the Utah Office of Tourism. So we're looking to take in the remaining half of that during the current fiscal year. And then the town of Alta contribution, $29,000 this year. The town budgeted to provide $42,000 to the chamber. We did some sort of year-end accounting to understand what it would take for the chamber to break even, and determined that we didn't need the entire $42,000 contribution. So we requested, after receiving that $21,000 contribution from the town in December, that an $8,000 contribution was the most prudent way to close out that town of Alta obligation to the chamber for 21-22. $52,928 in expenses for this year. Administration is mostly bookkeeping and accounting. We have an accountant do a financial statement and file our tax returns for us. Destination marketing, that was the Open Snow and Ski Utah work primarily. Member listings, visitor information, that's expenses to keep those web pages updated, and then work with bloggers, et cetera, to develop some of that content. Member events are fees to have food and drink and facilities to get the members together. And then public art and events, these are this is a payment to ACE to support all of that great program that we just showed you. We do continue to have quite a positive checking account balance. And this is a little bit, $112,445 is a little bit under where it's been in the past few years since we've elected to try not to have a net income at the end of the year. So that is the current picture of our checking account balance. For fiscal 22-23, we adopted a budget in June at the chamber that includes these numbers. $19,962 is all of the member dues that were owed from our active members. You see a blank space there for the Utah Office of Tourism grant. We could receive as much as like $75,000 from the UOT, or we could receive some fraction thereof. That would obviously really change, really change the revenue picture for us if we were to receive that entire grant. You all adopted a budget in June with a $31,500 contribution to the chamber. So that's why that shows at that level. Expenses for next year, we continue to have this budget broken out along those 4 key program areas. And I won't read through the numbers, but I will highlight that we have a big blank space here for the Alta Resort Shuttle. So we're just going to have to see how the cards play out on that. We did sit for an interview with the grant committee yesterday, and I think it went pretty well. So I think there's a pretty good chance that we'll at least be able to bring something to the table to support the Alta Resort Shuttle. And that's all that I have. I was going to turn it over to Rosie to just say thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And in closing, on behalf of the Alta Chamber and Visitors Bureau and our membership businesses, I wanted to sincerely thank the town of Alta and the town council for your continued support and funding over the years. We believe in our new plan, and we are excited to continue to work to provide value to our membership and the community. And I'm excited for Brandon's role as president and Zach as the vice president, and our continued collaboration with ACE as well. It seems like we have a clear vision and a great team of people that are working to achieve our goals. And it has been an honor on my behalf to serve as the president of the chamber the past couple of years. And just thank you.
Okay, I have a question for you. How many members do you have? And do they all have the same dues obligations?
We have 21 members, and the dues obligations are varied by the type of business.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything?
I just really want to commend ACVB for these really creative campaigns. I think that they are doing more than promised in helping to build communities. And I found them very interesting and fascinating to watch. So good job.
Thank you, Sheridan.
Okay, anything else on ACVB? In that case, Chris is up again for capital projects.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to bother to show the document that was on the screen when I last shared it. I just sort of worked up a different way of talking through the material that I presented in my staff report. So yes, we have an agenda item today to discuss kind of an update, to hear an update on 2023 capital projects, and then provide the council a little bit of time to ask questions and have a discussion if that pleases the council. We've talked a lot about capital projects the last few months. We presented an updated 2022 plan with info about projects that we completed as of May. In the May meeting, as well as a proposed 2023 plan. And then in May, along with, or in June rather, sorry, along with our 2023 fiscal budgets for the town, the council approved a 2023 capital projects plan. And that is included in the packet and posted on the website as part of the exhibits for this meeting. During the meeting in June, some council members indicated a desire to discuss the projects we had on the list and maybe talk more about how the town approaches capital projects planning more broadly. So the purpose of having this on the agenda today is just to provide an overview and then talk a little bit about projects we're focused on as of today, and then give you guys an opportunity to ask questions and have a discussion. I think we should have plenty of time for that. Just real quickly, you know, the purpose of the capital projects plan is kind of twofold. It's to track equipment, infrastructure, and building maintenance needs of the town and lay out a plan to meet them, and also to act as a mechanism for the town council to appropriate funding to specific projects, funding from the town's capital projects account, which must be appropriated to specific projects via a capital projects plan. So that funding makes it into account a couple different ways. Either the town saves proactively for future projects by budgeting to transfer funds to the capital projects account, or the town council can elect to place revenues that exceed expenditures in the capital account and then appropriate the funding as needs arise in the future. We have a committee that oversees the capital projects plan. Committee members include the mayor, town administrator, assistant town administrator, and the town clerk. We meet really just a couple times annually as of today to discuss the status and future need for capital projects. Committee, generally takes recommendations from staff for projects that we're in need of or that we will be in the future, but we can always take recommendations from the town council or constituents or partner agencies for that matter. for projects to include in the plan. As an update on projects that I'm working on right now, I guess I'll start. This wasn't in my staff report, but of course, I think we're all aware that the town has had funding in previous years' capital projects plans for several years to repave the property that we own on the north side of the highway in the center of town in the North Flagstaff lot. And we were successful in partnering with UDOT to replace all the asphalt on the north side of the highway from Our Lady of the Snows to the recycling dumpsters, if not a little bit further than that, up to the community center. So that project finally is underway. We're really happy to have that one off the books, and at a cost that we got a lot more for our $25,000 contribution than we would have if we'd gone it alone. Not to mention inflation, and that $25,000 being an amount we'd originally budgeted to spend several years ago. So that's a great update for you. Currently, I'm working on refining estimates to replace several windows in the town office. The town office was built in the early 90s, and all the windows are original to my knowledge. Several of those windows need to be replaced because the seal between the panes has failed. We have an estimate that's a couple years old for $6,000 to replace a number of those windows. And actually this afternoon, we just got an updated bid, actually from the original window installer that worked on the town office build some almost 30 years ago. And the estimate has only gone up by like 10% in a couple years. So that's great. We do still need to seek another bid to satisfy the purchasing policy. But now that we know that the cost is in the ballpark of what we budgeted for, I think that's a good step forward. So we'll be looking for another estimate in the next week or so, and then hopefully we can schedule a project. The windows are 4 to 6 weeks out from this contractor we've been talking to. So, and the other projects I'll just describe for you today. I think we're all aware that we have a couple kind of urgent needs up at the community center building. We have a rockfall mitigation scheme that retains the hillside behind the building that is about 40 years old. It's badly damaged, perhaps 20 years beyond its intended lifespan, and there's kind of a hole in it. So there's a fair amount of material falling off the hillside and piling up behind the building, and it's actually been ongoing for several years. Over the past couple of months, I've met with rockfall mitigation experts at UDOT who recommended a couple contractors and vendors of rockfall mitigation products to speak with. And I'm working with one contractor on developing a bid to hopefully repair the system. $10,000 is not going to cover a complete replacement of the system, but what we're working toward is some scheme to repair the system to buy us a little bit of time so that we can figure out the fate of that building, which is of course a larger topic. So if we can figure out a project to do, we're hopeful that it would only be a project that would take a couple days and that we can get that completed by the middle of the fall, October 1st. Finally, at the community center, we need to replace a vent on the back of the building that is corroded and allows meltwater or rainfall to sort of run into the building near an electrical panel. So that is a significant safety issue. We have a bid that actually came in underneath our budget, and we've sought additional bids, but we haven't received any updated bids. And we would do it today, except for that I'm hoping that we can understand the fate of our rockfall mitigation system back there before we invite an HVAC contractor to go behind the building and remove the vent. So anyway, those are 3 focus projects that we're working on right now. And I don't have anything else to add about our capital projects process or projects we're focused on currently, but I guess I'd turn it back to the mayor to open it up to the council for questions or discussion about our capital projects outlook.
Actually, I think you named 4 projects. One is the paving, and then the windows, and then the rock wall mitigation in the vent. Okay, let's questions, comments, thoughts?
Chris, thank you for the report. I wonder, has anyone reached out about a request for new sand for the volleyball court?
Yes, indeed. I heard from Pat Sayers, who is like the volleyball players union advocate, I believe. I saw Pat. I saw Pat about a month ago, and he mentioned that, and he said he'd spoken to you about it, and we've been talking about that a little bit internally, and I don't know that it's something that we necessarily need to use capital projects funds to complete, but it is something that we've started talking about internally. So it's definitely on the radar, Sheridan, and that is something that I'm confident that we could get done in short order, provided that we have the room in the budget, which I think we do. So does that sound good?
That sounds great. Pat reached out to me. I asked him to reach out to you. I'm just kind of closing the circle. So
yeah.
How much money are we talking about for a load of sand?
I don't know. Well, I will put it on the list to investigate.
Okay.
I guess I assume like about $1,000 or something like that. It's probably mostly the cost to drive it up and down the canyon.
Right. Yeah.
I fear it might be more if it's truly like beach volleyball quality sand. But again, we can take this back channel. So.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Further questions, comments, thoughts?
It's exciting to see you get these projects done, Chris. It's a fair bit of work, and it'd be great to see you knock these 4 projects off before the winter comes.
Yeah. The real issue I have is how much money do we want to spend on shoring up the current community center building? And it's like, how much money do you want to put in your used car? At some point, you say, I'm not going to put any more money into that. I'm going to get a new car. Now, the trouble is the difference between shoring up the current building and a new car is really huge. And I don't know, frankly, how to treat that problem. Craig, do you have any thoughts on this?
I always have thoughts, Roger. I think it might be better to actually raise that at a future budget committee meeting, because what I want to do is first get the feedback through my budget survey, and then work a little bit more with Jen, and then sort of present a whole proposal of how to approach this in the future. And I think, nothing's going to change between now and the end of the building season. So I would just say, go ahead, and maybe we can introduce a more comprehensive methodology, sometime this fall.
Okay. Good.
I mean, to that question, Roger and Craig, I'm curious, and for town staff, where would we see an inventory as council members of how the town's property is being used? Like, what is the square footage of the property? I can kind of mentally run through it, but I can't see the whole map in my head of what's happening exactly at the town offices and what the square footage is. Is there a way to meet with you all or have kind of a briefing on here's what the town owns, here's how it's being used, as a means of council assessing? Or my underlying question is this the best and highest use of this property?
We haven't really looked at it in that manner before, but we could. Some of the old studies for the community center site as it exists now in the location that we got where the fire station is now. That lays out the square footage and what's in there now. Then we have the water building, which doesn't really count for anything. And then we have Alta Central and the town office building. So we could work up some square footage and we could work up some uses for those two buildings. I think those are the only two that really, that we haven't clearly identified. 2003, we've been looking at this 2003 study for the existing site for the community center. And that does a very good job of laying out the square footage of the existing structure and what we'd be looking at. I mean, it would be totally different. Anything we did there would not be like this 2003 proposal. But it does a very good job of identifying the square footage and the desires. So we'll work up something on the town office and Alta Central.
Great.
That's all.
Thanks. Even something as informal as just could I get a tour? Could council get a tour?
You're supposed to have tours of Alta Central, so you know who's calling it during Interlodge, right. And who's living there and using that. But yeah, we can do that. Call me.
Craig, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I do. To me, Sheridan, that's a great example of exactly what I'm talking about. I think that between your comment and Roger's comment, another way to rephrase it is we sort of have to have an expected useful lifetime for all of these things. John is diving down into, for example, the water fund right now. But in addition to that, we've got other assets. And we actually need to have sort of a comprehensive list of that, some assumed timelines, and some idea of what the replacement costs are in order to make intelligent trade-offs between how much do we put into maintenance and how much do we actually start accumulating for replacement. But I think, probably not this summer, but I would think going forward, that would be a really good expenditure of some CapEx, is to assess that and come up with a more comprehensive and systematic way to look at these kinds of expenditures.
Okay.
Thank you.
One thing I was gonna add with respect to timeline, just for a little bit of perspective, if we made the decision this year to charge ahead with a new community center on the existing community center site, it would take at least 12 to 18 months to design it. We'd not be doing any physical work on the site next year. I think you'd be lucky to be in the ground at all in 2024, and it would probably take 1 to 2 years to build it. So when you think about, should we try to keep the existing building functional, I think there's really probably a 2 or 3 year horizon. Even if we were ready to say go, I think we probably need to use the existing building for at least a couple more years, 2 to 3 more years. So that would lead me to manage accordingly.
Yeah. Carolyn. Yeah.
Thank you. And safety first. And so I worry about people being in our current community center and in any way being injured. And so I assume that rockfall mitigation is all about that. And so I support making sure that who's ever in that building is very safe.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anybody would object to that.
And sometimes safety is expensive, and sometimes safety seems like it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
But it's all good until we get these torrential downpours and something happens, and none of us would forgive ourselves for the post office flooding or whatever odd thing we can all imagine.
Right. Okay, any other discussion on this capital projects report?
I do just want to highlight that, I I know there was, we had some discussion about, whether the projects on the list are the right projects in the June council meeting. And I am confident that the projects on the list are in almost every case, either really like essential maintenance on existing facilities and really a short-term essential maintenance on existing facilities. They're placeholders for essential technology upgrades for the Marshal's department. And then of course there's that large item for the community center. And we could always afford to take a broader look at what projects the town ought to be doing, to provide value to the community. It's just a matter of taking ideas, bringing ideas closer to fruition by defining projects, understanding costs, et cetera. So don't ever hesitate to give one of us a call and tell us you think we should consider doing something.
Yeah. I mean, this stabilizing the hill behind the community center really is a safety issue. And, I wouldn't want to see a big rock fall come down there and punch a hole in that building. That would really be a disaster. So we got to get
a bigger hole.
Yeah, a bigger hole. Right.
Yeah, that is the big thing. And safety is expensive. And just, historically, we had guys that worked at a ski shop that just threw chain link fence down behind our fire station and drove in anchors, just people, no equipment, thinking we have to do something short term. This is in 1983 or 4. They expected that to last maybe 5 years.
Okay.
So, and that's the problem. And if we get some professional in here, they're going to say, we can spend $200,000 perfectly maintaining this back end of the fire station. And in 2 years, we're going to rip it all out. So we don't want to cut safety short, but we're not going to keep that building forever. We're not going to keep that building probably for very long. And so we're looking at the best alternative to keep it safe for a couple of more years, I think.
Okay.
Probably giving Chris an ulcer right now by saying that, but and the other thing I'd say, excellent job, Chris, on the capital projects list and layout. There's nothing on there that's fluff, and it's a small town, and the staff and the mayor and council. I mean, we live with this stuff every day. We know what we need. We know it's going to fail. If we left something out, call us. We'll put it on. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. These are basically urgent items. Okay. Let's move to new business. Any new business from anybody? Well, we kind of have our work cut out for us in the noise area in 2 months. And I hope that, these capital projects are satisfactory completion this building season, which is, as we know, short. And
yeah, it's about halfway over.
yeah, it's and has hard cutoffs. Okay, if there's no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I'm loath to pause that. I just wanted to suggest if there's a possibility for council to throw out, or maybe we can do a Google Doodle about when we could do that work session with the community, maybe the first week of September.
Let's see, who's in charge of Google Doodles? Is it Molly?
She's new, she doesn't know, so let's say yes.
I'm happy to be in charge of that.
And she's good at this stuff, very good at this stuff.
Okay.
So is the proposal not to just do it at our regular September town council meeting day?
I was
think-
proposing earlier that perhaps we can act by that time, but that's just a thought.
No.
Yeah,
Sure.
In view of the fact that we have a work session on the noise business in our September meeting, I think it would be a good idea to have this capital projects discussion at a different go round.
And I apologize for my naivete. Are we allowed to meet to discuss different options outside of these meetings? There's some weird rule, like 3 of us can't be together or something like that. So we're not allowed to like communicate about different noise concerns. Is that correct?
You
Yeah,
can
so-
talk, yeah, sorry, go Polly.
No,
You'll
so-
be defending them, so you go.
As long as you can talk one-on-one with people, but if you're gonna have more than three or more of you, then you have a quorum of the council. And when you're talking about town business, that becomes a meeting. And so to do that is a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. So,
So are we, how do we, because I do, so I feel like my job is to help represent the community. So I know I made a statement about being 10 PM. I think I need to make sure that I understand everyone's point of view. So how do we understand other people's points of view? Are we allowed to gather to discuss, or that's totally off?
well, so you have a couple options. I mean, one is you can talk to people one-on-one, obviously, and then share what you've learned with the council. 2 is that you could have a special meeting where you have the whole council on a day that's not a council day, and we just notice it. Or as you could do a work session and have it be more informal where, sometimes it's more like it's a little weird to say a round table with Zoom, but that idea of just letting, having it be more of a conversation, which, work session can have different levels of formality. So the idea though is to have the discussion in the public, means that where the public can participate or can see it, so that 3 of you aren't going off and saying, well, we think that this is really noisy. We need to not allow this, and then just come back to the meeting and have already decided that. The public needs to have the ability to hear that conversation and have that interaction with you, or at least hear your interaction to make those decisions.
And Polly, that applies to emails and phone calls as well, right? We're not talking just one-on-one. It applies to all communication, I believe.
That is correct. So especially that's why we always were, and Jen has been very good about kind of helping monitor this, but that's why we don't like the reply all, where you start having an email conversation. Well, this is what the ordinance should say, and everybody's on it. And then you're having a meeting kind of in the ether. And so you want to avoid that. Text, phone call, conference call, whatever. So one-on-one is okay. You can bounce an idea off of someone else, but the idea is to have the discussion in the public eye. But there are a lot of opportunities to do that, right? You can hold another special meeting. You could hold, even at your next meeting, you could have, start it a half an hour early and have it be more like a round table. Or you could do that at the September meeting when the mayor will be there. So he could hear it.
I think, Polly, you've left out an opportunity that Carolyn may be groping for, which is, if you want to communicate to the rest of us on the council, Carolyn, you can send a message to one of the staff and they can send it to the rest of the council, and that's legal, right?
Yes.
If it's one way, yeah, it's what you want to avoid is the response to that. Oh, that's a good idea. And then,
Got it.
the idea is just to have the discussion in the public, so that it's as transparent as possible.
All that brings up that we I believe, are required by law or regulation to have annual training on this, which is not too onerous. I mean, the training's what, 15 minutes or something. And I've asked Jen to try to get together a schedule to see who's had it, who hasn't, when are you due? So.
It's tricky, right? Because somebody can write all of us.
Right.
But we can't respond to everybody.
Correct.
I know I blew it the other day and responded to everybody.
Almost blew it.
Almost blew it. I almost blew it.
Up to the line is okay. Scary, but okay. It's just the first one, but when it starts going, the second reply all communication makes it like an active meeting.
Okay. I don't think these.
Sorry, Mary, and you can't have those meetings unless you've notified the public.
Correct. And they have an opportunity to listen in.
And it's recorded. There are all sorts of minutes are taken, that type of thing, so that you can go back and look at it and hear the discussion, maybe if you weren't present there.
And so we can't all comment on the same document. And like,
No.
if you wanted to provide a revised draft of the noise draft ordinance based on, say, Mike Wan's letter, which was detailed and had a bunch of good points, there's a few other good points to surface today. You could revise the draft of that, send it to all of us, and we couldn't individually comment back to you.
You could individually comment back to me, but not back to everybody. And then
But not to each other.
Right. And then I could compile that into a document, or we could take that document, and then at the next meeting, you could talk about all your different points.
Because it seems like that's where we are. Like, we could use a new draft of the ordinance, I think, based on the comments received over the last couple of days, would sort of make sense as the next logical step to me. Don't you think the comments have been pretty detailed? Some of them I think are self-evident. I don't know. Rather than start the public meeting in September based on the draft that was presented this week, I think there's some things that, clearly we need to amend, like for ski area operations, for
Yeah,
instance.
I think between Polly and Cameron, they've got the message as to what the outline of a new draft. Do these rules apply to the treasurer?
Well, yes and no. I mean, no, you can't engage you can't create a meeting with the entire council, and you can't have a budget meeting, let's say, with a majority, but you are not an elected official, you're a non-voting member, so you can communicate to everyone, but more like you're a member of the public, just as the public can communicate with the entire council.
Yeah, that was actually a question I was going to ask. I assumed your 3 limit was 3 council members.
Correct.
So if Caroline wanted to have a meeting with 5 members of the public and no other council members, that would be fine, correct? Okay.
Correct.
And then the other question I would have is, given the ability to have Zoom sessions and have them recorded, if they wanted to have a conversation with, say, 3 council members and maybe a few public members or no public members, but it was recorded as a Zoom session and then published, would that be okay?
We'd have to notice it beforehand. It's okay. We just notice it minimum 24 hours in advance, have an agenda, and make it available so that people can watch.
So they have to
create
watch
minutes.
live. Wait a minute. The question I'm asking is, do they have to watch live?
Yes.
Or, so
Because otherwise you're
recording,
talking closed door session, and you can only do closed door sessions for
Yeah, certain
specific things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
this
it has to be,
wouldn't be one of them.
it has to be accessible live, apparently.
It sounds like we need to get the open and public meetings training kind of done soon.
So we kind of just did it. That's the meat of it. But yeah, and I thought everyone had done it at the beginning of the year, but maybe we didn't.
I think I did it. The problem is with a lot of things in life, unless you actually have to use it, it goes in one ear and out the other.
Right.
So this is the first, I think we've all wanted some public engagement and we've all wanted to talk a little bit more about something. So, you know, now I want to know what the rules are, but before it didn't
We
apply.
didn't need them.
Well, and we could set some time aside at the next meeting if the mayor doesn't mind, since he won't be there, but
Fine.
to either do a formal training or just have questions, and I'm available if there are more questions. I mean, you have pretty much done you've discussed the main topics, and we talk about also, emails and being careful, because also, why we segregate and only do town business on your town emails, that type of thing. So,
Mike, do you want to say something?
Yeah, and just because I wanted to make the meeting go longer than 6. Way too good lately. Polly, can you talk about the difference between an open house and a public meeting? Because I know a lot of the, like Cottonwood Heights frequently will host an open house and they'll have council members present.
yeah, so an open house, I mean, I think that they probably generally do notice them. But what we can do is if you had an open house and there was a quorum of the council who's going to be present, you probably notice that, but say no, well, town business would be occurring. It's just kind of, it would be treated almost like a meeting, but it wouldn't have to be as formal. Where, I mean, I've
But
seen
no action items. There probably would be town business, but no action items.
And that's what I was getting at is, I think that relieves us of the requirement to record minutes and,
right,
so long as the gathering is noticed properly.
right.
And you're not taking action on any item, it's an assembly for discussion.
Exactly. I've seen that a lot with like charrettes and, where when you're doing planning type stuff and you want to get the public's information. Although I have to say a lot of times I don't see the majority of council there. I guess just traditionally have erred more on making sure that we were, try to have that separation, but usually the council is there, but maybe a staff member leads those, and the council is more there just to listen than to actually engage, if that makes sense.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. That's a good distinction.
So
Okay.
are
Go
we
ahead,
thinking
Sheridan.
about having, oh, thank you, Mayor, sorry. Are we considering asking for a new working draft of the noise ordinance? I was just hoping that we might be able to have a listening session with the community where council was present, so it would be noticed, where we could actually talk with business leaders and residents about what we haven't heard yet. I think that we got a lot of input from certain segments, but I feel like we haven't really heard from the full community. And I would welcome that opportunity.
Well, my sense is that a work session prior to the September meeting would have that character to it. I don't know exactly what the rules are for the work session in terms of the public making inputs, but I don't think there's any rules against it.
You can, the public can comment as much as, you control the meeting. So if you want public input, if you want it to be kind of more of a round table and the public can just comment, or you pick on people, you can absolutely do that. There's no prohibition against that.
How's that sound, Carolyn? Or no, that was Sheridan, rather.
That sounds good.
All right, good. Okay, any other topics before we quit? Mike Morey still has his hand up.
I guess I would suggest that if we're gonna do what I hear, it sounds kind of like a round table. That's the closest description I can think of. we probably want to give people some direction on how that's going to be run. Probably want to have people either sign up or have some sort of indication on how long they'll be able to have the floor. So I would just advise in that direction.
Yeah. Well, we got some time to work that out before mid-September meeting. So what you want is some ground rules. Okay. Anything further this afternoon, evening, wherever you are? Would anyone like to adjourn? Would anyone like to move to adjourn?
Yes.
Sheridan
moved.
moving? Okay, second,
I can second it.
Carolyn seconding. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. All right. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Molly, are you good on closing this down, saving the recording?
Yes, I'll probably save the recording tomorrow, just because it'll take a while, but it's
If you could